Hello, welcome to this video on price discrimination. So in this video we're going to look at the conditions necessary for third degree price discrimination and then look at some diagrams we can use to illustrate third degree price discrimination. So let's start off by what do we mean by price discrimination? Well, this is defined as when a business charges different consumers different prices but for the same product. So it's important to note we're talking about product differentiation here. We're talking about different products, the same product at different prices. So we're really discriminating on different groups of customers as to the price they pay. There are several types of price discrimination, and we describe this as first degree, second degree, and third degree, depending on how the price discrimination is implemented. Here are some examples. Going down to your local market and haggling with the seller, everyone is paying a different price, so the business is charging you different prices for the same product. Cinema tickets is a good example. Depending on who you are, you might pay a different price for a cinema ticket and also different price at different times of day. If you're a student, you might get a discount on hairdressing. So why do businesses do it? What are the aims of price discrimination? Well, they want to generate extra revenue. That is really the main aim. If I can charge you a different price to someone else, I can make more revenue overall, which should enable me to make higher profit. It should also improve my cash flow. It's also a way of using up perhaps spare capacity without having to lower my average price. So if I have spare seats in the cinema, I don't want to charge everybody a cheaper price, but maybe if I offer discounts to students, and then I can fill up some of those spare seats without offering a cheaper price to everybody. Now, in order for me to do this, there are certain conditions that need to be in place for me to price discriminate. Firstly, I need to have quite a lot of monopoly power in the market. So remember, monopolists have pricing power. We can make our own prices. We're not price takers. This won't work in perfect competition. If I try and charge people different from the market price or higher than market price, I'll lose all my customers. If I try and charge lower, I'm going to make a loss. The second thing is I need to be able to identify the different market segments that I'm going to charge different groups of consumer. So I need to be able to find groups of consumers who will respond to price in different ways. So this is linking really with price elasticity of demand. I need to find those groups of consumers who are not sensitive about price and more price inelastic, and charge them a higher price. The groups that are more price elastic, I can perhaps offer them a lower price to attract more of those customers. I also have to be able to separate these different groups, and so I need to know some information about them. I need to gather information, market intelligence, market research on the purchasing behavior of these different types of market segment. And lastly, importantly, I need to be able to prevent resale. So if I sell an off-peak travel rail ticket, I need as a business to be able to prevent someone buying that off-peak travel ticket and selling it to someone who's going to use it at peak times and that ticket able to work. I need to find a way I can prevent adults pretending to be students or saying they're students and buying cheaper tickets. If that's not the case, then there's an opportunity for arbitrage, i.e. someone buying it at the cheaper price and selling it to someone for the more expensive price, and therefore I lose my benefits from price discrimination. So we have three different categories of price discrimination depending on how we implement it. Now, first degree price discrimination is the most extreme, and that's where we charge different prices for each individual unit. So everybody pays what they are prepared to pay themselves. People pay their own individual willingness to pay. Second degree price discrimination is when I discriminate based on the quantity sold. So perhaps if you buy more, I'll offer you a different price than if you buy less. Or by the time of your purchase, e.g. peak and off-peak. And third degree price discrimination is where I charge different prices to different groups of consumers, segmented by their sensitivity to price. So I look at different price elasticity demands, and this might be due to income, age, sex. So I might notice that younger people are more price sensitive than older people, and as long as I can segment that group in terms of my product or service, and then I charge them different prices, that would be an example of third degree price discrimination. So let's now go through some examples. First degree price discrimination, charging a different price to every customer based on their willingness to pay, is quite difficult to implement. But the rise of e-commerce and tracking your online data through the use of cookies and so on does potentially give the businesses potential to use this. They can look at your digital profile and then offer you a personalized price for the goods or service. So you might see this when booking a hotel room, or businesses might start to use this when they're looking at your loyalty card profile. What impact would this have in the market? Well, it's quite an interesting one, really. What we're saying is, rather than charging a market price PM, the business will charge each consumer, for example, this consumer or this consumer or this consumer, the maximum price they're willing to pay. So in effect, the economic effect is that the existing consumer surplus, represented by this blue triangle, disappears. There is not a difference between the price the consumer is willing to pay and the market price PM. The price the consumer is willing to pay is now the price they actually do pay. So the area A, consumer surplus, now belongs to the producer. So the producer surplus area is not just B, it becomes B and A if the business can implement first degree price discrimination. Second degree price discrimination might be due to things like bulk buying. So if you look at this example here, if I buy 500 megabytes of data, it costs me £10. If I buy twice as much data, sorry, 4 times as much data, this is 4 times as much data, it only costs me twice as much. So I'm getting 4 times as much data for twice the cost. I'm getting a much cheaper price per gigabyte here. Third degree price discrimination is where we charge different groups of customers different prices based on their price sensitivity. So if we go down here, this is an example of cinema tickets in the bottom left hand corner, and we can see this business has tried to identify sub segments of consumers. So we have adults, children, teenagers, students and senior citizens, and we can see they've done some second degree price discrimination between peak and off-peak prices. We can also see within that there are different prices. So for example, an adult is being charged £7.29, whereas a student is being charged £5.99. So that is telling me that they consider the adult to be less price sensitive than the student. And as long as they can ensure that an adult can't buy a student's ticket, so there's no risk of arbitrage, and this is a way of extracting, allowing adults to pay that higher price, £7.29, but also still being able to maximize or increase revenue by attracting students who have more price elastic demand. Here is another example of third degree price discrimination. We can see on this menu here that we have a different price for children than we do for a normal person, and we can also see we have different prices at different times of the day. Monday to Thursday is a different price than Friday to Sunday, and so we have examples here of different consumers being categorized, so third degree price discrimination, and also second degree here at the different times. So how does this work for a business? Well, what we're doing effectively is we're separating the market into two. So we might have on the left hand side here, I'll get my pen to work correctly, we might have the market for students, and on the left hand side we now have a separate market for adults in terms of cinema tickets. And what we'd see is that the cost of providing the seats are the same, and we're assuming here at this cinema they have constant returns to scale, so our average cost curve, marginal cost curves are horizontal, so a simplified example. And then for the students we have more price elastic demand. So if we were to look at the market here for students, we'd be charging a price P1, and we would expect a quantity of Q1 students to attend. Adults are likely to have a more price inelastic demand curve. So when we look at this market, we're going to charge adults a higher price, P2, and we get Q2 adults attending our cinema. So we've split our market into two here, and we've got elastic demand and inelastic demand, and we can maximize our revenue by charging different prices for different groups. Here is a similar example. We have a more price elastic submarket B, a more price inelastic submarket A, and we can see out of submarket B we make quite a small profit, and submarket A we make quite a large profit. But when we combine them both together, when we look at the average position, if we look at the average position for a business as a whole on the right hand side, here is our average price, and we can see that we make supernormal profits in the purple area here, because we're able to maximize, it's basically the sum of the previous two profits from submarket A and submarket B. So we can make greater supernormal profits overall by splitting out our markets. If we just look at peak and off-peak, if we imagine this is our marginal cost curve, at off-peak times we might have lower levels of demand, and so we would charge a lower price, an off-peak price. At peak times we're likely to have a higher level of demand, so we're going to charge a higher price. So what's the case against price discrimination? Why don't we like this? Well, really it's exploitation of the consumer. The majority of consumers will still pay more than the marginal cost. Really, this is an extraction, reducing consumer surplus and turning it into producer surplus, turning it into supernormal profits. Discrimination can be used as a sort of limit pricing tactic. We can offer certain groups a lower price that we know our competition can't compete with, and to use that to create a barrier to entry. If successful, this can reinforce the monopoly power. We can use the supernormal profits to reinforce our position in the market to create more barriers to entry. What is the case against price discrimination? Well, actually, price discrimination might make, the case for price discrimination, case 4. We could maybe use the supernormal profits to cross-subsidize other activities that bring social benefits. We might charge adults a much higher price that we can fund something that might benefit children. We might charge some people in certain parts of the world, rich parts of the world, a high price so that we can offer lower prices for drugs in, healthy drugs in lower income countries. It may be a way for a business to make use of spare capacity. There's no point charging a market price, profit maximizing price, and having a cinema half full. Why don't we offer a discount to get those extra students attending the cinema? Sports clubs will often do this. Football clubs will offer cheaper prices to children to try and encourage them to come to the game so they become lifelong fans. It can bring new consumers into the market who otherwise would be excluded by a normal higher price, for example, students and children's. The profit can sometimes be used for research, so this could be used to put to productive use in terms of investment in new innovative technologies. So in this video we've looked at the conditions necessary for third-degree price discrimination, and also looked at how we would illustrate third-degree price discrimination. That's it. Thanks very much for listening.